Year. Thank you all so much for joining. Oh, I got to get that off the screen real quick. Getting things ready for the show today. I'm behind the Gavel with Jason. It is New Year's 2021. And I think we're all excited about 2021 being here and 2020 soon becoming a distant memory. It was kind of obviously a messed up, crazy year. And we're all happy to have survived and gotten through to the next one. Today, instead of having a guest, I'm going to do a brief overview of what the KC Auction Company has done this last year, what Behind the Gavel has done this last year. If you have any questions at all about what I'm talking about the business, about the show, please post them below. And I would also love to tell us where you're watching us from. We have viewers from all over the world, and it's always interesting to see and hear where you guys are watching from. So if you have any questions, let us see below. But so 2020 for the KC Auction Company was obviously different than we anticipated a year ago today. We had planned to do, a regular schedule of auctions, about 18 or so in a year. We've been looking at doing some things to grow and expand, but more incrementally. And then the pandemic hit. First, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year, and they're well on their way to doing it again. Got to get my KC plug in there real quick. But shortly after that happened, after the parade, and March Madness was canceled. The Big 12 basketball tournament was canceled here in Kansas City. Obviously, we were looking to slow the curve, shorten the curve, whatever the term was back in the day. Seems like a decade ago now. But our business shut down solid for 2 months. We really didn't have anything to sell. We had things to sell, but our clients were obviously concerned, and we were very concerned along with them. And so we didn't sell anything for 2 months. We were very, we were very fortunate that we've always kind of planned for a worst case scenario, and we had resources in stock and on hand to weather that storm. We were able to keep Amy on her full-time payroll during that time frame, and other employees that we were able to keep those on their payroll at their hours as well. We did get some PPP money, which was a great help and relief. But after about 2 months, based upon the work we've done over the last 10 years, in that we have really diligent numbers as far as our dailies are concerned, on the behind the scenes numbers that you all never see, as far as registered bidders per lot, per auction, per day, bids placed per day, per auction, per lot, all those kinds of things. We were able to put together, compile some data for our client at the time, the King Estate, and say, look, if we put this out there and we're not meeting our historic metrics, we will gladly pull off the market, auction off the market, or do some other things. Fortunately for us and our client at the time, the numbers bore out that we were doing better because everybody was at home on the computer. And that's kind of been the case all year. And so we started back in after about 2 months of not having auctions, auctions rolling right along. During that time, some of the things we did in-house, some of the things we couldn't do because we're always busy, some of the things we kind of thought about doing but didn't look at long-term. We were able to basically take our entire operating system and put it to the cloud. What that meant was that Amy at home in Parkville could be working on things while I'm here in Brookside or at the office downtown. The other thing it let us do was bring on associate sellers. You might have seen several, I think we had 4 different associate sellers this year. A gentleman up in Smithville, a couple over in Roland Park. My son did one, and then Carrie, who works for us, did another one here late in the year. So we're able to bring in other auctioneers essentially and use our platform, market to our customer base, and we were able to do that and really have a really nice way to add some auctions. So like I said earlier, we do about 17 or 18 auctions a year. This year, with nothing going on for 2 months, we ended up having, where'd that tab go? We did 25 auctions this year. So with even taking 2 months out, we are increasing our auctions by about, 40%, went from 17 to 25, which is a great thing. More back-end work, obviously, but some of those auctions were off our books in that we weren't doing the majority of the grunt and the heavy working. We also added several benefit auctions to our online platform this year. And thank you all so much for watching, John and Jeff and Rick and Nabila. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and post them below. We were able to do simply in the Flint Hills auction, which we had done several years. But obviously, they didn't have their event for the second year row, and the auction was a great fundraising tool for the symphony in the Flint Hills, and also for the artists that those auctions represent. We also did an auction. Hey Jim, thanks for watching, Rick. We also did an auction for Albrecht Kemper Museum of Art. I was scheduled to be their auctioneer at their live event. And Kathy, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let us know. We were scheduled to do their live auction event, and I believe that was April or May. And obviously that got canceled. And so we took their, in-person and silent auction, put it online. The pot of gold auction they do, we did that online for them. We also did a benefit auction for who else did we do work for this year? On a blank. The Owen Cox Dance Group. We did work for them, a specific auction for them. We also sold for Heartstrings and a few other organizations who had singular items that had been donated that we were able to put into an auction and do that for them. So we were able to add some benefit auctions. We added the associate auctions, and we continued doing our own auctions. One of the things we did, in addition to keeping Amy on our full-time payroll, is we brought in Carrie Gibson on a half-time situation, and that allowed us to add some auctions as well. We did a beautiful, wonderful coin auction this year in a really short turnaround time because we had Carrie on staff, and we added some other auctions. We saw some really interesting things this year. In those 25 auctions, we had 5,755 lots sold, and they ranged everywhere from thigh highs for the Old Cox Dance Group tights to we sold the probably the most important object we've ever sold to this point, the Monuments Men Lieutenant, the diaries that we sold for the estate that ended up selling to a major institution on the East Coast. And that was a highlight of the year, one of our most expensive items we've ever sold. And again, probably one of, if not the most important, when you look at the history of art, you look at the history of military and everything else. It's just a really fun thing to sell. We were thrilled to sell it. So in those 25 auctions, 5,755 lots sold, we had almost 5,200 registered bidders. That's a huge number. Those are, just a great thing. Almost a bidder per lot, which you would never get on average doing these auctions in person, which is something we realized years ago as we went online, and we were happy to do that. Those 5,200 registered bidders placed 55,000 bids. So we averaged right at 10 bids per lot that we sell, which is great engagement. Obviously, we take pride in our pictures, in our work that we do. And to get those, we garnered 871,000 lot views, almost 1 million lot views this year. Next year, I'm thinking we're going to crush that number, crush that 7-figure lot view number. And really excited about that. Again, if you look at the 5,700 lots, that's almost 200 views per lot. And some lots get very few views. Others obviously get thousands and thousands and thousands. So we want to, those are the things that we're doing on a daily basis, driving traffic and doing Facebook marketing, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, emails, different auction calendar platforms online. We're able to do all of those things. The other big thing we did this year was we took Behind the Gavel with Jason, my weekly Friday show that I used to do where I would talk to you about whatever I felt like talking about just to myself like this. We started bringing on guests this year. And during the time that we couldn't have auctions or things going on like that, thanks for watching, Steve. While we couldn't have auctions, I looked into StreamYard. I looked into how do you interview a guest live on Facebook, right? It seemed like there had to be a way to do it that didn't cost a lot of money. Found this product called StreamYard that I'm using right now. That's how I'm able to do all these different overlays and the video at the beginning. But since the pandemic started, in fact, with the Symphony of the Flint Hills, when we interviewed Leslie Von Holten, she was our first guest. She was the executive director of the Symphony of the Flint Hills at the time. We've had 39 guests on my show this year, and I want to read off as many of them as I can. I might be boring, but I really want to thank all of these people for coming on my show. Raymond Doswell from the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, Trevor Lowe and Dr. James Bezjian from the new Monuments Men Foundation work that the government's putting in. It's a really, really cool thing, and you really should look into that. If you're interested in preserving historical artifacts, they're really working hard to stop things from happening before they happen, destruction and theft and things like that. Tama Clark Haynes, the antiques diva from Venice, Italy. I believe she was my first international guest, which was pretty cool. All the way from Venice, Italy, and there was just like about a half a second lag as it, which was really a fascinating thing. Kate Avery and John Chaskey, young antique dealers. Ariane Bethay from Dress My Room Interiors in North Carolina, I believe. Burton Kelso, he's a technology guy. He talked about tech gifts and how to shop online this year, which was such a huge, important factor. And obviously, we sell online, so that's important as well. Kristen Christian from Be Organized talked about how to organize your estate, how to organize your home, and get things ready for that. And that was a great conversation, a wonderful local company that we're happy to work with regularly. One of my most important shows, then it's leading to more work, not more work, but more opportunity. Britt Frank, who owns the Greenhouse KC here in town. Her and I talked about estate trauma and how you can prepare for it, consider it, make sure that you're just aware of that conversation and that idea of when you're working with the estate, you may have issues and concerns, or your siblings may have issues or concerns from 20, 30, 50 years ago that were never resolved that will come to the fore when you throw in the stress of dealing with mom and dad's estate. Important work. I'm hoping that we'll do more of that, more work around that space going forward. I had Sarah Reeder on from Art Factual Appraisals and from Worthwhile Magazine. We talked about sterling silver and a few other things. I had auctioneers on like Trisha Brower and Scott Jones talking about benefit auctions. Mike Brandley, one of the smartest guys in this business, and I talked about the business and the auction world itself. Sean Terrell and I talked about ranch real estate and those kinds of things. And Brigitte Cruz and I talked about celebrity memorabilia because she's one of the experts in that field. As far as lifestyle brands, we had Gwen Hefner, the Makerista, huge following on Instagram. You've seen her at the auction house many times doing open house previews. And again, you'll see her next week for our current auction. Had Leah Ashley on, and Martin and Karen Suen Cooper from the Punctilious Mr. P's Place Card Company, which is a really wonderful story. And they've had some great things. They've been featured in El Decor, Quintessence video blog, some neat things going on with them, and really excited they were on the show. I had appraisers Tracy Cayley and Charles Keller on the show talking about jewelry appraisals and appraising history, which is often a really challenging thing. In addition to Leslie Von Holten with the Symphony of the Flint Hills, we had the staff from the Albrecht Kemper Museum on, interviewed them about their museum, about the Pot of Gold auction. We had Owen Cox Dance Group on, several performers, and Owen and Cox talking about the dance group and again what their goals are, their education outreach programs for dance and performance and music. We also had the West 18th Street Fashion Show, Hindsight 2020 on. We were happy to support that work this year. They usually have a big fashion show, and they couldn't do that this year, so they did a movie that premiered and showed at the Boulevard Drive-In here in Kansas City. It was kind of a fun thing to go out and do that. That was really the only date night that Stacey and I have had since this all started. Also had Curtis Dowling, internationally known TV expert on art fraud, talking about that. Really fascinating work. Liz Lidget, Art Gallery up in Des Moines. I think that's about everyone. And again, 39 guests over the course of the year. Really fascinating stuff. And looking forward to continuing that work going into the next new year. Have some really fun guests lined up already. Tim Luke, who was on Antiques Roadshow. Tansy Ward from Atlanta talking about the African influence in European antiques and estate jewelry. Excited about that one. And then many other people working on trying to keep that mix of well-known to really fascinating people. And oftentimes they collect the cross. But it's a lot of fun. If you have ideas for guests or shows to come up, or if you think you'd be a great guest, let me know. I'm always looking for great guests and things like that. So what does 2021 look like for the KC Auction Company? Well, one of the other big things we did this year, and if you've been following along, is that we bought another building, a new building for our office. We will be in here. Thanks for watching, Pete. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them below. We're going to be moving into this building here shortly. I have the contractors working on this place starting next week. Signs are being ordered. There'll be more pictures coming along. But this is what the street side of the building looks like. This is what the entrance around the back looks like. It's a wide open space. It's really a cool space, and we're really excited about it for many, many reasons. We're going to be able to have galleries dedicated more towards art and towards furniture. We have more photography space, and it's going to be really, really wonderful space for us to work in that we just don't have now. If you've been to our building now, you know it's actually absolutely spectacular. It's a Victorian house, but it just doesn't lay out well for working on things. But we're really excited about what this new space is going to be able to let us do. It's just on the east side of downtown, super easy to get to. I don't think you can see now, but just a block and a half to the south of us is I-70, right between two major north-south roads. Thanks for watching the net. And Jim, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and post them below. I'll try to answer them. But again, super excited about what this building is going to allow us to do, how it's going to let us grow, and things like that. One of the things that's going to allow us to do is have more auctions running. We just talked about how we went from 17 to 25 auctions. We're probably going to fall in the between 25 and 30 auctions this year. I believe we have 6 auctions lined up through March. We have the auction online right now, the fine art and antiques, the French furniture. We have an art auction already scheduled. We have a single owner jewelry auction scheduled. We have a collection of airline memorabilia. We have a quilt collection, that's 5 right there. And we haven't even started talking about individuals and estates and our consignment auctions that we do regularly. So we are extremely fortunate and satisfied and glad that so many people trust us with their objects and with their estates to bring them to the market to find the right buyers. And we will continue to work hard on that going forward. That's about it. 2020 has been an interesting year, challenging. We were fortunate that we were able to do some things that allowed us to not only survive, but thrive. A lot of hard work went into that. A lot of things behind the scenes that nobody will know about, but we're really happy with how 2020 turned out as far as the business is concerned. We obviously miss seeing people in person at our open houses with the big food spreads and everything else like that. Hopefully, as the vaccines are more distributed and there's more known about this virus, we'll be able to do that here, in the next 6 months to a year. But as we continue to move forward, continue watching for these videos. Every week we do this. Next week we have, like I said, Tansy Ward will be on talking about the African influence on European antiques and estate jewelry, Victorian specifically. And also watch out for our preview videos for the auctions that we do. We do that with every auction we have for a long time, but they've got a little bit more in depth and more important for you as a buyer to be able to look at those things with that. The video seems to give a much better representation of things, get a better idea of scale and size. Thanks, Mara, for watching. And if when you're watching the video, you just have a different feel of how those pieces play with each other, interact with each other, live with each other. That individual photographs, although wonderful, don't necessarily tell that entire story. So thank you all so much for watching. Again, have a happy new year. Have a safe new year, successful and thriving, profitable, and healthy new year. And we will look forward to seeing you again next Friday with Tansy Ward. And have a great weekend. Here in Kansas City, we are getting our first snowstorm of the year. We have probably 2 inches on the road already, 2.5 inches down already. And they're talking about 1 inch of snow an hour for the rest of the day. So we'll have a pretty good blanket of white by the end of the day. So thankfully it's Friday, so I'm at home wearing a sweater, and I'm wearing sweatpants, so it's almost my PJs, which is the classic Zoom outfit for the year, right? Again, thank you all so much for watching. Nancy, thanks for joining us late here, and look forward to talking to you all during the year. If you have any questions at all, please post them below. We will I can answer those at any time. Or you can always email us at info@kcauctioncompany.com, or give us a phone call at 816-283-3633, and we'll be able to answer any question you have, whether it's about the show, you have items you want to sell, items you're interested in buying, or just questions about the estate world in general or auction world in general. Please reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful afternoon, wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you soon.